The observation deck of Station Kepler 442 hummed with the usual cacophony of interstellar commerce, 100 different species conducting business in 100 different dialects. But today, that familiar rhythm shattered when the security team arrived at Base 7. Pulse rifles drawn, and carapaces gleaming under the cold white lights. "Stand down, human," clicked Chief Security Officer Vex Nar, his mandibles spreading wide in what his species considered a threat display. "Those creatures are classified as apex predators. Galactic Customs Code 7 Alpha prohibits their transport through civilian sectors." Celine didn't even glance up from where she knelt. One gloved hand, gently scratching behind the ear of the small, striped creature pressed against her boot. The cub, no larger than a standard cargo container, though its species would grow to 10 times that size, rumbled contentedly, its 6 eyes half closed in pleasure. "Miko," Celine said softly, her voice carrying an edge that made Vex Nar's translator unit stutter. "Sit. Sit." The cub immediately dropped onto its haunches, its twin tails curling around Celine's ankle. Beside it, 3 more cubs mimicked the action, their crystalline claws retracting into their paws with audible clicks. "Impossible," breathed Jomar, Vex Nar's deputy, a gelatinous being whose entire body rippled with shock. "Voltharian Reavers don't respond to commands. They're mindless killing machines. The Galactic Council exterminated their homeworld precisely because you were afraid," Celine interrupted, rising to her full height. She was tall for a human, nearly 6'3", with dark skin marked by the scars of a dozen worlds and eyes that held the kind of weariness that came from seeing too much, too young. "These aren't killing machines. They're children." Vex Nar's translator crackled with something between disbelief and fury. "Human, you don't understand. My grandfather lost 3 clutchmates to a Voltharian pack raid. Their kind slaughtered billions across 17 systems before you committed genocide?" Celine's voice was quiet, but it cut through the deck like a blade. "Yeah, I read the reports. Real thorough job. Except you missed a breeding colony on Volthar 3's northern moon. These 4 are all that's left." She reached into her jacket, a movement that made every security officer tense, and pulled out a datapad. "I've got sanctuary clearance from the Terran Embassy and adoption papers filed with the Endangered Species Preservation Committee. Everything's legal." Miko chose that moment to yawn, displaying 3 rows of serrated teeth capable of shearing through reinforced hull plating. The security team collectively took a step backward. "Legal or not," Vex Nar insisted, though his voice had lost some of its authority. "Those creatures are dangerous. Look at them. Those claws could disembowel a Crothian war beast. Their bite strength exceeds your pulse rifle's maximum output." "Yeah." Celine folded her arms. "I know the specs, Chief. I also know that Miko here hasn't bitten anything. Except the chew toys I bring her. None of them have." "Them?" Jomar quivered forward, his mass undulating with nervousness. "How many do you have?" 4 cubs. Miko's the oldest at 8 standard months. The others are her siblings Cora, Tix, and little Nem. As she spoke their names, each cub's ears perked up, their attention fixed on her with an intensity that bordered on worship. Vex Nar's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of deep agitation among his kind. "You named them. Stars above, you actually named apex predators and expect us to believe." The station's lights flickered, then died. Emergency strips ignited along the floor. Bathing Bay, 7 inches crimson emergency lighting. Somewhere in the distance, an alarm began to wail, not the standard proximity alert, but the deep, bone-shaking klaxon that signaled only one thing. "Hull breach," Jomar whispered, his form compressing with fear. "Sector 9, pirates." The deck shuddered as something massive impacted the station's outer shell. Through the viewports, Celine could see the angular black shapes of raider vessels, their weapons ports already glowing with accumulated charge. Vex Nar spun toward his team. "Fall back to defensive positions. Protect the civilians," and the far bulkhead exploded inward. Through the smoke and debris, figures emerged, Kresh raiders, their exoskeletons bristling with stolen weapons and their reputation for brutality preceding them like a wave of fear. There were at least 15 of them, cutting off the security team from the civilian evacuation routes. Nobody moves. The lead raider's voice boomed through his suit's external speakers. This is now Kresh territory. You're all, Miko growled. It wasn't loud. In fact, against the chaos of the breach and the screaming civilians, it was barely audible. But something in that sound, something primal and ancient, made every being in Bay 7 freeze. The cub had positioned herself between Celine and the raiders, her small body tense, her lips curled back to reveal those impossible teeth. Beside her, Cora, Tix, and Nem had formed a semicircle, their combined growls building into a harmony that spoke of hunts across dead worlds and species that learned too late what it meant to be prey. Miko, Celine said, her voice still calm, still controlled. Enough. The cub's growl cut off instantly. She looked up at Celine, twin tails swishing uncertainly. Celine didn't look at the raiders, didn't acknowledge the weapons now pointed at her chest, or the death promised in the Kresh leader's stance. Instead, she simply walked forward, stepped over Miko, and sat down on a cargo container. Boots, she said, patting the deck beside her feet. All 4 cubs immediately trotted over and settled against her boots. Their bodies pressed close, their earlier aggression melting into the perfect image of domesticated contentment. Miko rested her massive head on Celine's foot, eyes half closed, purring loud enough to vibrate the deck plates. The silence that followed was absolute. The Kresh leader's weapon wavered. What? What are those? Voltharian reavers, Vexnar said quietly, his earlier hostility completely evaporated. Apex predators, extinction-level threats. He paused, his translator barely processing his next words. And they obey her. See, Celine finally looked up at the raiders, her expression bored. You boys have about 30 seconds to get back on your ships before I tell them to stop being cute. The Kresh leader glanced at his companions, then at the cubs, then at Celine's completely relaxed posture, her hand absently stroking Miko's striped fur, while 4 of the galaxy's most feared predators snuggled against her like puppies. Retreat, he said. Sir? I said retreat. The raiders scrambled back through the breach so fast that 2 of them collided in the doorway. Within moments, their ships were disengaging, engines burning hard as they fled into the dark. Vexnar approached slowly, his pulse rifle lowered. How? He asked simply. Celine shrugged. Humans have been doing this for 40,000 years, Chief. We took wolves, apex predators that hunted us, and turned them into dogs. We've domesticated everything from war elephants to house cats. She scratched under Miko's chin, and the cub's purr intensified. We don't see predators. We see potential friends who just need someone to show them love. That's insane, Jomar said. Yeah, Celine smiled. That's humanity. Station Kepler 442's security never questioned Celine's clearance again. And when word spread through the galactic community about what happened in Bay 7, humans gained a new reputation, not as warriors or explorers, but as the species crazy enough to adopt extinction, give it a name, and teach it to snuggle. Miko thought that was fair enough.